awards on our side. We're going to begin with, as usual, World Rounds. Just before we start the episode of World Rounds today, I'd like for us to take a listen to this this piece, and after it, then we would take up as soon as we can. Take a listen.
I also want to say that oil theft is encouraged by the military. The military is at the center of oil theft. And we have to make this very, very clear to the Nigerian public. 99% of oil theft can be traced to the Nigerian military, the Army and the Navy especially. The Army and the Navy intimidate the civil defense, who are by status the people who are supposed to guard these pipelines. They receive a lot of money from NNPC, PCL, and the IOCs, and just across the corner, you will see a houseboat. A few meters from the houseboat, you will see an oil bunkering refinery or tapping directly from oil well heads. It is very pathetic now. What is happening in the unprecedented in the history of oil production anywhere in the world. The vandals do not only attack the pipelines, they have migrated from the pipeline and have gone directly to the oil well heads, and they take directly from the oil well heads. They set up haphazard facilities they call local refinery, artisan refinery. This is crime against humanity, because the livelihood of the people is being totally destroyed. The livelihood of the people is totally destroyed. And every meter you see a naval houseboat or an army houseboat stationed. So the main culprits are the Army and the Navy. And there are notorious naval commanders who are known to be kingpins of these bunkering activities. Even if they give 1 billion contracts to everybody in the Niger Delta, because these military men are armed from the Army and the Navy, nothing will happen. The president has promised to take decisive action to make sure that this does not continue. It is brought to an end. It is very shameful.
Well, that was the voice of Asari Dokubo. The conversation we're about to have now is not news to any Nigerian that has been, current on the issues going on in the country. Just in May was last month. Between the month of March, in May we found out that between the month of March and April, crude oil production in Nigeria has crashed by over 9 million barrels. Okay? And that has led to a cumulative revenue loss of about 356 billion. 356 billion naira. Now, while we are dealing with these issues, a lot of Nigerians are thinking, what is the way forward? When the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria got inaugurated into office, the first thing he said was, fuel subsidy is gone. And that was the first move he made. The subsidy has been taken away. Nigerians are dealing with very serious hardship in the country at the moment. Let us look at today the issue of oil theft in Nigeria. Is the military truly responsible, as Asari Dokubo has said? Or are there other factors? Are there other players in the book? To have this conversation with me, I have Hashim Suleiman. He's the founder of One Heart Nigeria Youth. He's a youth advocate for mindset change and a public affairs analyst. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for joining us in the house today. This is a conversation that has stirred up a lot of emotion amongst a lot of people. Someone would describe it as a very dire situation. After Asari Dokubo made this statement, a lot of military officers, both present and retired, came out to debunk it, came out to say, oh no, you can't say that about the military. You can't just put 99% of the blame for what is going on the military. Just before we delve into the statement that was made, can you just provide an overview for us on the current state of oil theft in Nigeria and the impact that it has on our economy today?
Okay, thank you so much. You see, we're at a stage in our life of a nation where it's right about time we started to lay bare some very critical issues, as against always hiding behind the finger and trying to make it look like everything is all right? So all of these issues we're talking about are not issues that started today or yesterday. They're issues that have spanned over a period of time. Past presidents, for example, all of the whole militancy got heightened during the time of Obasanjo, and then it became all heated up where the revenue of the country was threatened and what have you. And then you had an Eradua come on board, and Eradua thought, okay, rather than continue to go on the whole kinetic method of solving this problem, I'd rather opt to use democratic means to solve this problem. Democracy is a form of government that encourages engagement, that encourages you to appeal to people, to see reasons to why they should quit what they're doing, for example. And so he thought to use democratic means to solve this problem, and that was when the whole amnesty thing came by. That was when the whole Ministry of Niger Delta came on board, as well as the NDDC, and in all honesty, to a large extent, that solved the problem to a large extent. And shortly afterwards, also, Goodluck Jonathan came to be the president, so it was only natural for them to feel involved in the country and the nation, and felt that they should give peace a chance. So all of this economic stability will come by, and I think we had the economic stability through all of that period until the immediate past president came on board, and then the whole thing now changed, where you saw a brazen disregard for a lot of the need to be patriotic, and for people to actually be on top of responsibilities that they're given. And if you want to be honest and be fair to the military, that character or that mindset was not only found with the military, for example. You also had it in almost all the sectors of the country where people were being given to manage, and so it started like a joke. It's even like the whole subsidy thing, from paying just a few billions naira a year for subsidy, we had it jump to about 6 trillion naira per annum, and that was, there's no way you can be able to explain, is it population rise? What could have brought about that very large jump in the figures? And so all of that was a pointer to the sort of things we saw in the past administration, where institutions that were supposed to be up and doing and become better than they were found, even now come to become worse than they were found. And so we got there where revenues were dwindled. We couldn't even be able to meet up our basic obligations, to the extent that majority of our budget was even, or rather majority of our revenue was used to service debts as against using it to fund our budget. So we found ourselves having to borrow funds to implement budget. It went that bad. So basically, I think it was just about a lack of maybe will, or the lack of follow up appropriately, and a lack of plan to be able to move institutions from where they were found to perhaps a better showing or something like that.
Okay, great. Now, Asari is Asari Dokubo. He's a known state actor.
Yeah.
And we've seen time without number how people like this, or people like Asari, or they usually have their very small institutions that they control.
Yeah.
We see how they start things up and it spirals out of control. And as example will be what is going on in the southeast with the sit-at-home order and all of that. And the governor recently, the governor of Enugu State came out to say, "Oh, sit-at-home is over." But the people are clearly more afraid of the ESN, and they are sitting at home. Monday came and passed. People didn't go out. They didn't open their shops. And we have people like Asari popping his head out in this administration, even more than he did. We didn't really hear so much from him in the last 8 years, but now he's bringing his head out, made a visit to the president, sat down in the press room of the presidential, of the State House, and made this speech, which we're looking at. Is there a way that the Nigerian government can control known state actors in a way that, they can put them on a leash?
Okay, so, it's instructive to note very importantly that life abhors vacuum, right? And when there's a vacuum about leadership, people will want to look elsewhere. It's just like your kids at home. When you don't give them the time, when you don't make them close to you, they're certainly going to find somebody else they will need to talk to. And so when you have a country like Nigeria that has over the years lacked the presence of leadership in a lot of the strata, then it's only natural that non-state actors will pop up. But then, it's very, very also important to note that in democracy, this whole attempting to brush people with a brush, or trying to make certain people look like they're worse than others, may not necessarily all go well, because like I told you earlier, democracy is about engagement, right? So that means that if I am the president, it is okay for me to engage everybody, including the non-state actors, as long as they've got something positive to bring to the table. And that's why democracy is more about engagement as against using force. That's what you find with autocracy, with military governments, So be as it may, I think it's okay if the president feels that there are certain informations, or there is a way that engaging Asari will bring about some peace, or will bring about the need to get all of the economic insecurities that the country has to a halt, then why not? So I actually, as somebody who understands how democracy works, I may not necessarily have a problem with Asari coming to the presidency to be engaged with but what's most important is that while that engagement is ongoing, then there's a need for all of this, because after all, everything about Asari can be put in the realm of perception, because no court of law or anybody has ever indicted him to say he's done this or that. And like I told you earlier again, the past president of blessed memory, Umari El-Adwa, has already even put that to rest by granting all of the activities that these people did, by granting amnesty. So when you grant amnesty to people, that would mean that you've dropped every other negative insinuations about them. So that means that engaging Asari Dokubo is democratically okay, and then whatever it is that he has to bring to the table will have to be linked. But the only thing, like I would maybe add to this, is that while engaging all of these non-state actors, they would also have to understand that they have to key in to the sort of progressive mindset that would only get a country better, as against maybe now misusing such kind of opportunities for also divisive tendencies and some other vices that are maybe out of the law or out of getting the country to work.
Okay. When you started in your opening, you mentioned how oil theft didn't just begin in a country. It has has been here for a very long time, and I think that's how we got to the state that we are right now, discussing about barrels of thousands of barrels of oil being of crude, being stolen, right? So far, has governments in past, because this one just came in now, have governments in past taken any steps to combat oil theft? And how effective have they been?
No, not at all. Really, it was more like a lip service, and when problems come up of sort, the most important is to take a pause and really attempt to understand the root causes of them, as against, like I said, as against just coming up, and then attempting to just use kinetic forces or insist that this must stop. It wouldn't. Just like the whole Southeast thing you're talking about, kinetic forces would just not work in a democracy, right? You would have to opt for engagement. You would have to engage the people. You have to understand the root causes of them. Like, I am from the school of thought of not blaming people for the things they do, yeah? What I try to do is to find out the reasons why they're doing the things they do. So back in the days when the whole Boko Haram thing was heated up, I used to tell people, I said, a young man would only pick a bomb and bomb himself because he lacks education, he has a lot of economic insecurities, and all of these are responsibilities of government to give people. It's the responsibility of a government to educate people, to provide their welfare and what have you. When all of those things are absent, when people go to do certain things, I think it's really unfair to completely blame them. So now is, have we actually sat down, or the government that you're talking about in the past, have they actually sat down to find out what are the real root causes of some of these problems? Who has actually taken time to do that? Perhaps maybe this coming president has started on that note of trying to engage everybody to find out what the root causes are, and then now attempt to try to mitigate all of those problems. But let me tell you about what I understand about this whole oil theft thing, yeah?
Go ahead.
Now we're in a society, or we're in times where affluence has become very, very important to people. Everybody wants to, back in the days, you would hardly even see the military around cities or around town. They're always in their barracks and they're confined to their own type of lifestyle and what have you. But lately, with the whole maybe advent of social media, Instagram, everybody wants to flaunt how well they're living. The whole thing is transcending into the whole strata of the society where everybody wants to have a good life, and really, that now kind of mindset, or that kind of tradition, is not just only found in the military alone now, even in the civil service. And that's why they will tell you, like, all of the budgets are made, but you'll not find commensurate development. That's because people have this need for affluence, and so they want to dig in their hands. And so how do you get to solve this problem? You would have to pay attention to people's welfare. You cannot send an army man to guard a military or an economic facility like that, and then you're paying him peanuts, and especially in a society now that now puts affluence on top of everything. It's just not going to work. He understands how valuable these things are. So how then are you going to ensure then the leadership also themselves of those people also understand how valuable all of those items are amidst this affluence thing I'm telling you about? So it's only natural that there's going to be. So how do you solve some of these problems? You would then have to pay very, very critical attention to their welfare. If on an ordinary, everybody will want to work in an oil company, that's because they pay very well. And they have to pay very well, because you can't put somebody in such kind of environment to manage such very heavy economic items or materials for you, and then you don't paying him well. It's only natural that he would dip in his hands in them. So these are some of the issues, right? And you can only get this information maybe from the local, and you have to, in the solution, also collaborate with the locals to be able to understand. But I think it's really important that, I mean, the service chiefs have now been appointed newly.
Going to get to that.
Yeah, so we're then hopeful that with this whole fact gathering that the government will do, she will set up the right methodology.
You just mentioned the service chiefs. I was going to talk about that right next. In the entire speech that Asari Dokubo, put out there, he mentioned a cleanse in the military because he said there are a number of people that just feel they're, according to you, they're hotheads in the military. If I don't give the get-go, it's not going to go through. They're stubborn, they're resilient in not allowing a change to happen. Would you say that, is it safe to say that part of what the president is doing, especially with, he put specific people, people in position of service chiefs, then that would force the people ahead of them to retire.
Yeah.
So now there's a whole, it's not just a few people now, it's a lot of officers are going to be forced to retire, and then other people are going to come in after them. Is it safe to say that it's part of what the president is doing with that move?
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you go around our public institutions, you see that most of the people at the top are stuck to the same ways of doing things. I mean, they just don't see the need to shift from that same ways of doing things, from that very stagnant mindset, more like a retrogressive one that's all about embezzlement and having it all and taking care of your kids and sending them all abroad. So I guess there's more like taking those people, bringing those people from the down who perhaps have the tendency to turn a new leaf, and then giving them opportunity to come on board. And I mean, when you, because I'm a public person, I discuss a lot with people. When you discuss with people who have idea about that sector, they will tell you that these new guys are actually the ones who love to be on the field together with their men and getting the job done. So that means that you would at least have a driver who would have his own mindset deviating from the norm, and it's only natural in leadership that when the driver takes a certain, it's only natural that certain people will have to follow. That means that would not to say that you will not have a few dissents, but then there would have to be consequences for misdemeanor, and so if you have the driver who is willing and who's ready to actually move, then I think to a large extent you should have the followers follow suit.
All right, then we haven't spoken about the major question in this entire thing, which is the role that the military play. A lot of Nigerians would be wondering now, how does the military play a role? Because if you follow through all of the responses that came from the military, they didn't come out to outrightly deny their involvement in oil theft. Most of them are either saying, you can't say 99% of it is on us. That means there is an acceptance of some sort. They are accepting a level of responsibility on the issue. What role could it be said that the military is playing in oil theft?
Yeah, so that's why I told you, these people are sent to go and guard this economic infrastructure. They understand what's about that sector. They understand how lucrative the sector is, right? And then these are individuals who are not being managed appropriately in terms of their welfare, morale, and what have you. So it's only a matter of time that they were only going to get involved in it. I mean, it's only natural, trust me, if you understand how leadership works, right? It's only natural. So, and like I told you again, if you check very well, make your research, you'll see that mindset actually was prevalent in almost all the sectors of the country in this immediate past administration, and this has been very, very honest about it. Like the whole ease with which people could conduct sleazes, could dip in their hands in the public sector, just to have perhaps maybe some sort of better life, or however you want to put it, really became so heightened. So it wasn't something that now there's a leadership change in the military, and then there is an attempt to also engage the locals, to also get their buy-in to work on this. I believe that this leadership of the military would have to now ensure that they sit down, rather than do like a knee-jerk approach or putting in the whole sack or boots or whatever. these same individuals can be tailored towards changing their own mindset from, but like I said, it's extremely important to take their welfare into consideration. Trust me, if you give the person the necessary things he needs, because I mean, if I am sitting back in the office and somebody is in the field, I don't expect that some of the privileges he's going to get while on the field will be the same with mine. So you're on the field, you're guarding all of these things. You should be. It's just like how somebody working in the anti-corruption agency must be taken care of, or somebody working in the bank who sees money on a daily. This is only natural that you must make him feel comfortable. Otherwise, he would dip his hands one way or the other into it. So I encourage the new military heads to actually go deep, make a research, put more of engagement as against really using the whole sack or boots or anything. More of engagement, understand the problems, understand up the morale of these military men, inculcate patriotism into them, ensure that you put their welfare at the top burner, and I guess it's only a matter of little time all of this will go.
Okay, thank you very much. We've had this conversation with Hashim Suleiman, the founder of One Heart Nigeria. He is a youth advocate for mindset change. I'm sure we have no doubt, considering most of your responses came from a place of shifting the mindset towards achieving success, or moving forward. And he's also a public affairs analyst. Thank you very much for coming to the studio.
Thank you.
Time is very much against us. I wish we had more time. I have so many more questions that we've not even looked at. But you have done amazing justice to the subject. Thank you for listening to us. Of course, Matters continues with Formula U. Today we're going to be looking at very interesting aspects of your health. Well, it's left for you to guess whether today I've decided to talk about your mental health or your physical health. We'll be right back. Don't touch your dial. Of course, this is Voice of the People, 96.1 FM, Abuja.